Hello and welcome back to my channel. It is spring. It is spring here in Ireland and we need to get set up for the growing season. Having spring chores completed before the growing season can set you up for a fantastic year of growth, and it is a really perfect time to prepare your plants for this. As a massive fan of lists, that is the first thing I do when I tackle spring chores. When you have a collection as big as mine, you kind of need to break things down into section by section, shelf by shelf, and make lists of things that you need or things that you need to do. That's how I personally approach my plant care, and it's something that really works for me and my brain. But if that doesn't work for you, you may have your own method. Maybe you just go through everything anyway and you take it real chill and you don't make lists. I also take a chill, but lists make me feel like I'm definitely getting all the things done that needs to be done. So my spring chores normally take place over a couple of weeks whenever I have the time to fit it in, and I do it in phases. Phase one will be to go through each section and make a list. If something needs a stake, if something needs the soil refreshed, if something needs a repot, I write all of that stuff down as different separate lists. That will enable me to figure out if I need to buy any new pots, if I can change out some pots that are with another plant, if I can look in my pot storage to find the right size for things. I also write down, this one needs a medium-sized clay pot, it needs a large-sized plastic pot or whatever. That kind of helps me to organize it in my head and also try to keep the buying to a minimum. Because honestly, you need new pots fairly often, and keeping that to an absolute minimum is the best approach for me. I have recently put up a video about how to choose plants to get rid of and to refresh your collection, and what my approach has been. I go through kind of issues I had in my plant collection of being able to let go of plants, and how I've kind of held on to plants that I don't really like as much anymore, and how I've approached kind of refreshing the collection, and how I've kind of turned a corner with that mentally and physically. So if you're interested in watching that video first, that's a good kind of background on, I guess, a phase of the spring chores, because I have treated it like that. While I've gone through each section and made lists, I've also used that time to look at each plant and choose what to get rid of. So if you're interested in watching that first, head on over there and then come back to this video. So phase one complete. We have gone through and we've made our lists. Phase two of this is actually doing the things on those lists. And that may require, like I said, buying some stakes or finding some branches in the wild. If you want to know how I approach using branches for my climbing plants, I also have a video on that, which I will link in the description. So I get all the things that I need and I make my way through those lists. Now this can take quite a bit of time, especially if the repot list is long, because I'll only really repot maybe 2 or 3 things in a session, and often there's quite a lot more of that to do. So I will slowly tackle this phase 2 over a period of time. Phase 3 covers 2 main things, and this is my approach. Those 2 main things are pest prevention or control and fertilization. So when it comes to pest prevention, I don't have, thankfully, any pest issues right now that I am aware of, at least. I don't have any pest infestations at the moment that I currently have to deal with. So all of my approach to this is going to be pest prevention and how I do that. I do have a video as well on how I approach my pest control and prevention in a kind of organic, non-chemical way. I will also link that video in the description if you're interested in getting into that in more detail. But essentially what this means for me is bringing each individual plant into the bath and absolutely dousing it in a mixture of soap and warm water, and sometimes wiping leaves with a diluted alcohol solution. So any plants like philodendrons that have kind of big shaped leaves like that that are easily wipeable, I will wipe them down with alcohol, and this will prevent any kind of eggs or, you know, small populations of pests that I am not aware of from, you know, taking hold and populations getting bigger. And for the other type of plants, like I said, I will just douse them in a really, really soapy mix. You want to see suds or bubbles from your soap. It really needs to be a very, very soapy mixture, and I will just leave that on my plants. I'll leave them to kind of drip dry in the bath, and then I will bring them back. Now this, when you have as many plants as I have, can take quite a bit of time. But we go section by section. Like I said, when you have a big collection, you just tackle it piece by piece. On top of that, with the fertilization, I kind of mean not just fertilization, but also just making sure nutrient levels are good for each of the plants. So if it's a plant that requires nutrients, like some carnivorous plants, you do not want to be putting any nutrients in that soil. Some plants I will have just repotted, and so the organic content will kind of be refreshed. Or some plants I will have put a topsoil dressing on, maybe of some organic compost or worm castings that will provide them with nutrients that are going to wash into the soil and the roots. So that is generally sufficient enough, but what I always do with all of my plants is I will fertilize them as well. So some plants I will have fertilized a diluted amount over winter, but to be honest, I haven't actually gotten around to doing that often, and so they really need to all be fertilized. And how I do that is I take a diluted amount of organic seaweed fertilizer. I will show this on the screen now what I actually use. This is my preferred method of fertilizing. It has never done me wrong. I don't use any kind of high strength chemical fertilizers, while obviously they can give great results. This is my preferred method. So I can also do this at the same time as having them all in the bath. That honestly is probably the fastest and easiest way to do it. So before I wash everything down with either the soapy mixture or the alcohol wiping of the leaves, I will fertilize them all in the bath, because I can do it real quick with a big watering can, and I'll fertilize everything. And honestly, that's what I do to prepare my plants for spring. When I'm going through the repots, I also will do any pruning that is required, any old leaves that are kind of dying off or crispy or yellow. I just get rid of them a lot of the time when I'm preparing for spring anyway. As the plants grow, I often just leave yellow leaves to crisp off and die, but this is kind of what I do to prepare them all. So that is how I approach preparing my plants for spring. That is everything that I do. I'll put them all back in their places. I might rearrange some plants as well. I don't always do this, but if I'm in the mood, that is something I can do. I have done this pretty recently in the collection because I've been getting rid of some plants. So I have rearranged a little bit as well, and I'll put them all back in their place, and they're all ready to go for a summer of extreme growth, I hope. So that is it for this video, guys. I hope that watching me do all of this and talking through it has given you some inspiration that you may or may not have needed to kind of go through your collection and tackle each of these things, because the summer growing season it's just the most exciting time for indoor plant care. You have stuff blooming, things are growing at a faster rate, there's a lot of things to observe and watch and get excited about with new growth. And you know, setting your plants up with the best foot forward, with the best root forward, I really did just say that, didn't I? Can just make that more exciting, essentially, because you get the most out of your plants, and when they're happy, they're much more exciting to watch and to care for. Thank you so much to Amanda, Amy, Grace, Hope, Michael and Yendi for your support this month. It truly means the world to me. Thank you so much for watching this video and for your support as always. I will see you very soon in the next video. Bye.